Hello and welcome to the Learn and Work Smarter podcast. This is episode 135. I'm Katie, your host, and today we're talking about a common mistake that I see students and professionals make so often. And it is the kind of mistake that seems small, but if you don't know that you're making it, the consequences of that mistake can literally prevent you from reaching your goals. And in the scope of everything that you want for yourself and what I want for you, reaching your goals is pretty high up there on the list, wouldn't you think? All that to say that this mistake can have pretty big consequences, but also it's super avoidable once you know it's a mistake and once you become aware that you're making it. All right. If you are watching this episode on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the show. If you're listening in a podcast app, be sure to tap that follow button somewhere. I think it looks like a plus so that you don't miss future episodes. And then come find me on Instagram. I'm at School Habits so that we can stay connected between our Thursday episodes. Remember, with all of these episodes, you can either speed me up or slow me down. You can grab the transcript at learnandworksmarter.com/podcast/135. You can take notes. Just do what you got to do to extract what you can from this episode so that you can take action on the strategies we talk about. All right, let's begin. Hello, you are listening to the Learn and Work Smarter podcast, the podcast for students and professionals who want to learn and work smarter. I'm your host, executive function coach, and founder of schoolhabits.com, Katie Azevedo. As a reminder, everything I mention in today's episode will be linked in the show notes, including a link to the transcript, which you can also find at learnandworksmarter.com/podcast. All right, so what is this common mistake that I so dramatically claimed has the potential to derail your entire life? It is to focus on the wrong lever when trying to accomplish a goal or an objective that you have for yourself. I feel like that was a lot of words, but as a result of focusing on this wrong lever without knowing that that's what's happening, you're getting frustrated, you're giving up before you even have a chance to be successful, and never understanding what happened. In episode 106, I talked about an anti-goal setting strategy, which touches on, or at least is like the foundation of what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to leave that linked in the description box if you're watching on YouTube, and it will be in the show notes if you are, listening on an app. But today we are going deeper. So let me frame the episode for you so that you know what we're covering and in what order. First, I'm going to explain what I mean by pulling the wrong lever and then the impact that can have on basically everything that we set out to do. And then I'm going to share examples of what this looks like for students in the academic space. And then I'll shift over to examples in a professional context because I know that my listeners, come from both groups. So and of course, then I'm going to share what to do instead. So when I say the common mistake I see is that students and professionals are pulling the wrong lever when trying to reach a goal or accomplish something, this is what I mean. They focus on the outcome, the thing that they want to achieve, rather than on the effort and the actions they need to take to ever have a chance to reach that outcome. Now, a really basic example that has nothing at all to do with learning and working smarter is somebody saying I need to lose 20 pounds, but having no real plan to make that happen. No action steps that they take every single day to make that 20-pound weight loss happen. They just declare that is what they want, and then they get frustrated when it doesn't happen, and then they give up on the goal altogether, thinking this just isn't for me. But the reality is that that's, not how we accomplish anything. In episode 54, it was one of my favorite episodes to record. It's called The Secret Ingredient Behind Every Accomplishment Ever. I do want you to go listen to that. Okay, but let me give you a little spoiler about what the core message is there, that the secret ingredient behind every single accomplishment ever is action. The magic is in the action. Declaring that you want a 4.0 GPA or a promotion or $1 million or a 20-pound weight loss, none of that means anything without taking action. And that's the mistake that I see students and professionals making, just declaring that they want something, but having no plan to make it happen. I want to get into this college. I want to get an A on this test. I want to improve my grades. I want to get promoted. I want to get that dream job. I want recognition for my role on this team. I want to start a company. These are all wonderful things to want, but without concrete action steps that you take probably most every day, the goals don't happen. You don't accomplish the thing. And then well-meaning students and professionals with those well-meaning, really good goals that they deserve to reach get frustrated that they didn't achieve what they wanted to achieve. And then they give up, never realizing that their goal was like right around the corner and super achievable if only they had a different way to go about it. What is that different way? Focusing on action and effort, not outcome. So here is the underlying message that I want you to keep in mind as we move through the episode today. Focusing on the outcome we want will never give us the outcome we want. But focusing on the small daily actions that we can control, the daily efforts that we can control, will get us closer to that desired outcome than anything else. When we focus on the outcome, on what we want, the grades, the GPA, the college admission, the promotion, the job, whatever it is, we almost always set ourselves up for failure from the very beginning. We're not even giving ourselves a chance to try for the goal, to see if we can do it, because we're not doing anything to make it happen. And then when it doesn't happen, because like, why would it? We get frustrated and we start believing that the goal was perhaps maybe too hard or too lofty, or we're not good enough, or something is wrong with us. So we lower our bar and we set smaller goals. And that is not at all what we are here to do. Okay, so let's first work through what this looks like in a few different academic contexts for students. And then I'm going to move into the professional space. Maybe some of these scenarios will apply directly to you. Maybe some are close enough to what you're dealing with that you can still see their application to your life. So let's start with tests. I can't tell you how many times I have had students tell me that they want an A on an upcoming test, and that is a great goal. And my first question in response to that goal is like, okay, well, what's the plan? Today's Monday. The test is, next Monday. What actions are you going to take today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in order to get an A on Monday's test? And this question will stump students. They're like, well, I'm going to study this weekend. So what? That's like 1 or 2 days before the test? And also, to study is such a vague term that hardly constitutes a plan. And so then what we do, or what I do, is I say, okay, well, how about tonight? You start by figuring out what's going to be on the test and then narrow the topics down and make a list. Okay, and then Tuesday, you can start organizing your study materials. You can print things out if you need to. Make sure you have all of the materials that you're going to need to make your study resources from. Wednesday, you might actually start making flashcards or practice questions. Students can even start feeding some of their, previous quiz questions or homework questions into AI and ask AI to generate similar practice questions so that they can use those practice questions to study. But none of this is happening the night before the test, right? And then each day leading up to the test, they're testing themselves using active recall study methods. And this is happening on pretty much every day leading up to the Monday test, right? That's the action, that's the effort, that's the thing that takes you closest to the desired outcome. Declaring that you want an A on the test is not going to get you an A on the test, but using active recall study techniques and spaced repetition on most days leading up to the test will get you closer to that A than anything else can. And it's the same thing with students who want, an A overall in a certain class. Like I can think of one student in particular, I'm not going to name their name, whose goal was to apply and to get into ultra competitive universities. Okay, this was like last college application season. And their AP physics grade was a B, and they wanted to get it to an A minus. Obviously, this is a very smart student, very competitive, right? Because that's what was needed in order to maintain like their academic profile for their college apps. Because again, they were applying to elite colleges. So when he was like, I need to get this B to an A minus, I was like, what's the plan? And he was like, well, what do you mean, what's the plan? And I was like, what's the plan? Like, how are we going to get this B to an A minus? Because that is essentially a mathematical equation, right? You have to see how many tests and assignments are left, how much they're weighted, what you need to score on each one to nudge that B up to see if it's even possible to achieve in the first place. And then from there, you need a study plan that's probably different from what you've been using in order to increase the likelihood of getting those good test grades that take you closer to the A in the class. Right? And then also homework. Maybe you need a new homework routine or different study strategies, different learning strategies so that you're maximizing your points there too, which will also contribute to the larger goal of getting an A in the class. You can't get a B to an A minus without taking very specific actions every single day that nudge that grade up. proceeding as you've been proceeding with the same strategies. It's just going to keep, giving you the B that you currently have. Like that's the conversation that, I had with the kid. Another academic scenario I deal with a lot is students taking standardized tests, so like the SAT or the ACT, and wanting to get a certain score in order to increase their college application. Now, I might have a student tell me, I need a 1350 or a 1400 on the SAT, or I need a 32 on the ACT. Again, I'm like, okay, like great goal. What's the plan? Declaring that you want a certain score on a standardized test requires students to take very particular actions on most days leading up to the test. I have been tutoring students in the SAT and the ACT for over 20 years. So it's my job to help these students come up with their plan, to figure out what their starting score is, to give them some diagnostic tests, to analyze the type of questions that they're getting wrong, to teach them those strategies and skills, and then to make sure that they're taking multiple practice exams and doing tons of practice questions leading up to the test so that they can get closer to the scores that they want. Now, of course, there's still no guarantee of getting those exact scores because anything can happen on test day, but there is literally no better strategy for accomplishing what you want to accomplish than saying, okay, what do I need to do to make that happen? Coming up with a plan and then actually taking the action. Okay, so in the past 3 scenarios, getting a good grade on a test, getting a good grade in a class, and then getting a particular goal score on a standardized test. Those are pretty common academic scenarios, but even the best plans in the world for reaching all of those 3 goals won't happen if you don't take the action required. And that's where you actually have to look at your calendar and say, okay, when am I going to take this practice test? When am I going to study? What day? What time? From when to when? How am I going to change my homework routine in a way that I'm not rushed and I have time to check my comprehension and make sure I understand this stuff? Where in my calendar do I have the open space to, use spaced repetition study sessions and then actually sit down and do the work? It is a combination of creating the plan and sitting down and doing the work, taking the action that brings you to your goals, not the declaration of wanting to reach your goals. And not even just creating the plan itself, it's the combination of creating the plan and doing the work that, as I said at the top of this episode, is the secret ingredient behind every accomplishment ever. Now, a few other common academic scenarios that might apply to your situation where focusing on effort and action is really the only way to reach the outcome you want. Improving a specific skill. So let's say note-taking, for example. You struggle with note-taking in class. Maybe you're always looking around the room. You're wondering what people are writing down. You're wondering how to know what's important, how to keep up, because the teacher's talking so fast. You're like, how do you write down? Like when I can't even hear the teacher at the same time, and you're like, man, this is something that I need to get better at. Okay, well, what are you going to do to get better at it? What strategies are you going to try? What note-taking methods are you going to experiment with? Of course, the right answer is to get my note-taking power system. This is where I teach you exactly how to take fast, simple notes in class. Yes, that's linked below. The specific note-taking strategies that I teach you in that program is the effort and the action you have to take if you ever want to get better at note-taking. Or let's say you want to get better at writing. You don't think you're a strong writer. Okay, that's fair enough. That's a great goal. But what are you going to do to become a better writer? Probably read more and write more. But that's only the beginning of the plan. What are you going to read and how much more? What are you going to write and how much more? Maybe you make a specific reading goal of 20 minutes a night. 20 minutes a night compounds over time to a lot of exposure to language and writing styles. Maybe part of your plan to become a better writer involves journaling, 5 minutes a day. Maybe you Google journaling prompts to become a better writer. Maybe you ask AI to give you 365 journal prompts to make you a better writer. No reason you can't do that. I actually have a journal. I sell a physical product, the Executive Function Journal. I've sold this for years. I think I usually link that below, but there's 90 different journal prompts that are really accessible, really simple to get you to practice writing. At the same time, it builds your executive functions. Now, the only way to become a better writer is to write more and to be exposed more to language. So that's what you have to do pretty much most days if you truly want to become a better writer. If you're a student, you could ask your teacher or professor to give you more specific feedback on your writing. Yes, students do this. Yeah, you're writing your essays in school to get a grade, of course, but many students just look at their grade and they're like, oh, okay. And they never look at the feedback, or they never even ask, the professor any follow-up questions once they get their essays back. The students I work with look for more. You could take your paper to your English professor and say, like, what could I do to make this paper stronger? What feedback do you have about my writing style? What areas of this paper are structurally weak? How can I make my argument stronger? If you want to become a better creative writer, practice creative writing and write creative short stories. Again, this is all action and effort that you have control over. The outcome is what you don't have control over. It's just a declaration or a hope or a dream. A plan plus action equals goal accomplishment. All right, I've covered a lot of academic scenarios, so let's move on now to a professional context. Let's say that your goal is to find another job. A lot of times I work with professionals who have this goal and they've spent months, if not years, just stuck, like unhappy in their same job, saying over and over again that they want another job. But as we know by now, reaching that goal requires a plan and taking the action. Like literally, how else is it going to happen? Like somebody tell me, I'm wrong here. Like if you want something to happen, you have to do it. Like I am standing here waiting for somebody to prove me wrong. So you have to think, what are the steps I need to take to get another job? Well, there's research, there's updating your resume, there's updating your LinkedIn profile, thinking about the connections that you already have, surveying the market and seeing what's out there, applying, doing the interviews. And each of these tasks can be done in phases. You don't have to do it like all in one sitting. You could update your resume and your LinkedIn profile in a single day if you really wanted. You could research the job market and create a list of jobs that you want to apply to, I don't know, maybe in a week. You could send out your applications to all those jobs in a single day if you really wanted to. But that's the action that you have to take if you want to get the job. And this is the point in the plan where a lot of professionals will say like, well, when am I going to have time to do that? I don't know, weekends? Before 9? After 5? During your lunch break? If it's really a goal you have, you might have to face the inconvenience for a while of shifting things around and doing things at times that you'd rather not do them. That's usually the difference between people who reach their goals and people who don't. Right? The people who do aren't thrown off track when they have to do things after hours or before hours or work a little harder to complete the action they said they'd complete. That's just how stuff works. If the goal is really worth it to you, find a way. Now, another workplace scenario, you might have a broader goal of getting more organized. That is a great goal, but what does that mean? What does that mean you'll be doing each day? Does that mean you want to manage your email better? Maybe keep your desk clear, manage your digital files more effectively, your projects, all the above? Awesome. But what does that mean you'll be doing each day? Let's take, just as an example, email management just to start. We could come up with a plan where for just 10 minutes a day, you go clear your email inbox and you do broad searches for common types of emails you get that are, I don't know, maybe like always junk. You do a mass search for those and you delete. If you don't have any of those and you just want to get better at processing your inbox, cool. What does that look like each day? I teach email management inside School Habits University. I also have an episode on this show with email management basics. That's episode 15. So like the early days, I will leave that linked below. But for most people, email management looks like processing your inbox at least once a day by going in and opening up the emails and doing something with them, either deleting them if they're junk or extracting tasks from those emails and putting them in your task management system and or extracting time-sensitive information and putting them in your calendar. Those are really the only emails you need to do something with. If you want to keep an email because it's something to reference, great, you can do that. You can leave it in there, you can archive it, whatever. But email management means opening emails and extracting what you need from those emails and putting it in the right system, usually task management or your calendar. And doing that 10 minutes a day, and you have an organized inbox, right? Let's go through another scenario. Let's say that you want to start getting recognized for the work that you're putting into the team and your contributions to the company. Great goal. What's the plan? What are you going to do every single day to reach that goal? Now, your first thought might be, well, I don't know, like I'm already working really hard. I can't do anything else to get recognition. I can't work any harder. And maybe that's true. If you are genuinely taking all the right action steps and the goal just still isn't happening, then maybe there are factors at play that are, beyond your control. There's always factors at play that are beyond our control, but we can't focus on those. For example, maybe your boss is never inside the office, so they don't see what you contribute and how much you work. Maybe your boss has some kind of favoritism toward, another employee. I don't know. You can't control that. But on this show, we only ever focus on what we can control. So let's say that again. Let's say again that your first response is there's nothing you can do. I want you to really investigate that response and ask yourself, is that really true? Maybe the thing you're putting all of your effort into is not the type of thing that gets rewarded at your company. Maybe you're making beautifully designed PowerPoint presentations, but your manager doesn't value that. They value problem solving and on-the-spot contributions during meeting. Okay, well then that's what you're going to have to start doing. Maybe they value team communication. Okay, so every day make an effort to demonstrate more communication. The recognition won't happen overnight, but obviously what you've been doing hasn't been giving you the result that you wanted thus far, so you probably have to do something different. That's just how it works. But my question to you is, what will that be? And when will you do it? Now, another workplace goal someone might have is to nail a killer presentation that you're going to make at an upcoming meeting. Awesome. That will likely lead to recognition and maybe more opportunities. Great goal. But to achieve that goal, you've got to figure out the action steps that you have control over. So what could that look like? Maybe get your hands on some examples of previous presentations at your company that went over really well. Duplicate what made those successful. Start early so you can adjust and revise your work without feeling rushed for time. You can work on it a little bit each day. You can schedule time into your calendar to make it happen. Do your research to make sure that your data is right and then you're presenting exactly what you're supposed to be presenting on. You get the idea here. These are the small daily efforts, the small daily actions that you have control over. These are what move you toward your goal of nailing a killer presentation that you want recognition for. And again, that's the secret to having everything you want. Having a goal, figuring out what needs to happen to achieve that goal, and then taking consistent action even when you don't feel like it. I'm going to share a personal example here if that's helpful. This is actually a fairly recent example too. So the day that this episode airs in July 2026, I'll have just returned from a 2-week vacation in Portugal with my family and my in-laws who are from Portugal. Now, my goal for that long vacation was not to have to do any media work during those 2 weeks. Media meaning podcasting and blog posts and scripting videos, editing, things like that. So that was my goal, but I knew that I needed to take a whole bunch of daily action steps for the 3 weeks leading up to that vacation to make it happen. So what did I do? I took out a piece of paper, yes, because I am so analog, and I took out my content calendar. I mapped out how many podcast episodes I would need to record in advance. There would be 2 for the 2 weeks I was away, and then I wanted an additional 1 for the week that I came back. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad I did, because I actually... If you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that this happened, but I got stranded in Portugal. Our flight got canceled with no explanation, and they said the soonest we have is 2 days later, and we were traveling with 9 people. The logistics were, they were fun. But if I hadn't planned ahead and had that extra podcast episode like locked and loaded and created, I would have basically been screwed. But anyway, I knew I'd arrive home on a Monday red eye. Turned out it was a Wednesday, but whatever. I didn't want to worry about that Thursday's episode. So I needed, in my mind, to record 3 podcast episodes before I left on vacation. Okay, and that was just the beginning though, because each episode, this is a little sneak behind the curtain, but every episode needs to be researched, outlined with like bullet points, recorded, edited, the video and the audio, uploaded and scheduled for YouTube, the podcast apps, my website, which is like the learnandworksmarter.com website. So that's 3 different places. I needed to write my show notes and description boxes with all of the relevant links. Again, for all 3 episodes in all 3 places. So in the 3 weeks leading up to my vacation, I looked at my calendar and I made time each day to take small daily actions to plan, to outline, to record, to edit, to schedule, to do all the writing bits for all 3 episodes. And I made it happen. And you listening to this episode, when I just returned from the mountains of Portugal, is a result of me focusing on effort and action instead of outcome. Can you imagine the result if I just declared, I need to prepare 3 podcast episodes for vacation without doing anything to make that happen? It wouldn't happen. But we do that all the time. So my question to each of you listening is this. What is something that you want to achieve or do? Maybe something that you've been wanting for a while. Maybe you've been frustrated that you haven't achieved it yet. Maybe you've started blaming yourself or your skill level or the goal for being too big. Maybe you've even started blaming others for your situation. That's a common occurrence too when we don't reach our goals. But what is the thing that you want? Think about it. Name it. I'm serious here. I'm not being abstract, and I don't want you to be abstract in this exercise either. Do you have it in your head? Can you picture it? Good. Now, when this episode is over, it's almost over, I want you to seriously think about what needs to happen in order for you to reach that goal. What levers can you pull that will bring you closer to it? What actions can you start taking right now and on most days so that you start taking back control of your goals and your accomplishments? Otherwise, they're just hopes and dreams and wishes and desires, and those are fun to have and to daydream about. But here on this show, here on the Learn and Work Smarter podcast, we are all about making things happen. If you want my help making things happen, School Habits University is the best place to start. All right, my friends, that brings us to the end of the show. I hope it got you thinking and inspired you to take some action. That's my goal for you. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone you think might find it helpful too. Remember, you can find me on Instagram at School Habits to stay connected between our weekly episodes. As always, keep showing up, keep doing the hard work, keep asking the hard questions, and never stop learning.